no light is passing through. What's going on, everyone? It is me, Gillian from Riveraedge, here to help you guys get further with your knife making career, your knife making hobby, whatever it may be, and I'm here to entertain those who just like the process. So today I'll be showing you guys how I surface grind my bars of steel. Now, why do we need to surface grind? This is the number one thing you need to know before we even get started. We surface grind because it improves the tolerances for the overall knife as we go along and make it. I hope those birds don't interfere with our sound. If you want perfect knives with really tight tolerances and you just want it to be really even, perfect knives, that is what we're aiming for, right? In this whole knife making industry. If you want perfect knives, you can't make super perfect knives if your stock isn't flat. There's so many things that just are affected in the whole process that goes after this process. For example, your handle scales. If your steel isn't perfectly flat, they won't align properly on your steel. Your bevels, they will be greatly impacted if it's not perfectly flat either. Now, we're not talking dead perfect. We're not talking about extreme tolerances. We're just talking about near perfect. Because when it comes to knife making, that's really what we're shooting for. We're shooting for high quality fit and finish. Just the overall attention to detail with all the little things in mind. So that is why we surface grind our steel, unless you buy it, pre-ground from the factory, because you can actually do that. Some steel manufacturers will surface grind it for you, so you don't really have to do anything else other than just start making a knife. I'll show you guys how I do it. First thing you need is a belt grinder. If you're doing this, if you're even looking up how to surface grind, you probably already have a belt grinder. Now, you can buy a surface grinding attachment, but those are really expensive, and this method works if you don't want to spend that much money, not yet. If you want dead perfect, I'd recommend saving up for the surface grinder attachment, because it's just so much more effective and so much more faster. This method works though. I've tested it on my granite surface plate, and doing this method has provided me with some pretty flat stock. So we need a belt grinder. Now we're going to be using a 60 grit aluminum oxide, a 60 grit ceramic belt. This is the Northern Blaze, one of the best belts on the market. It doesn't really have to be a super sharp, fresh belt, just sharp enough that it can still grind away and hog away material. Because if you use a worn belt, especially aluminum oxides, it'll grind really inconsistently. So let me show you what else you need. You need a strong magnet. I recommend this magnet. If you're in Australia, go to amfmagnetics.com. and they sell this really powerful magnet, and I swear this thing is so freaking powerful. It's just, well, it doesn't seem as powerful because I put tape over it. This actually has 40 kilograms of pull weight on it, but this magnet is really powerful. This is not coming off the magnet anytime soon. Even with the forces of the belt grinder, it's not gonna come off. So you're gonna wanna make sure that your magnet has a consistent surface. You want it to be flat. You don't want the magnet to have bits of dirt on it, otherwise it'll affect it a little bit, Now take your magnet, put it onto the metal, and let me show you how I do it. Look. Now, I'm not gonna do it while it's running because you won't hear shit, so I'm not gonna do that, but oh, dang it. So, what you need to do is angle your steel towards the wheel at the bottom here, and what this does is you're gonna want, let's say this is moving. Once it's moving, you need to feather it in really gently with a bit of pressure and just push forward. And make sure as you're pushing forward, you have the same amount of pressure on, whenever it's coming into contact with this rubber wheel. It could be metal for you, I'm not sure. You need to have even pressure on the point of contact. You can't be, pushing it here and, having more pressure at the top. You need to have pressure wherever the wheel is contacting your steel, because that's what's going to make consistency. And you want to make sure that you're perfectly flat on this as well. What I mean by that is you don't want to come at this like an angle. Like, I'm going to exaggerate here, but you don't want to come across like this, because you're going to grind inconsistent flatness. So you want it to be perfectly flat on that. Don't do this, because it's not going to make flatness. So just feather it in. Now you will round off the corner here. It's inevitable, you will do it. So feather it in gently and apply pressure onto the point of contact and go slowly down the wheel. And you want to do this with, you know, the same amount of time for each spot, because if you don't, you're going to dig massive craters into your steel. You don't want that. Let me just put on my safety gear. I recommend Bolly safety glasses. Not sure what these are specifically called, but yeah, let's do it. Alright, and in just 3 minutes, we have a surface ground bar of steel. Now, obviously, if you didn't do this consistently, you would see greatly exaggerated shadow marks. Well, I'm not really sure what you call them, but you can feel it. If you run your finger across here and feel dips, you've done it wrong. You haven't surface grounded properly. I recommend practicing on some scrap steel, or just keep doing this, because you'll get better with time. Make sure you improve your technique, make sure you improve all your stuff. Dang it, these cars. But as you can see, it's pretty flat, you know, especially press here, it's flat. Here is a 1, 2, 3 block, and as you can see, well, obviously there's going to be a bit of a gap because the edges of this are ground a little bit, but as you can see, no light is passing through that. If there's no light passing through the gap, it means it's pretty flat. Now, let's take some light and show you what I mean. If you can see light passing through that, it ain't flat. Look at that. No light is passing through. Take a look at that. No light coming through whatsoever. And just overall touching it all over, you can see that it's pretty flat. It doesn't have any wiggle on it. That's pretty flat. That is, you know, fairly flat. And even when you're like making the knife, once it's in shape, you will check it again anyway. So if you messed up on this process, you'll be checking it pretty much every step of the way anyway. So that's that. And that pretty much just sums up today's video. Now, as you can see, we got this bar of steel pretty flat with this method, and that's basically it. You don't really need a super expensive surface grinder to get decent flatness with your knives. All you really need is a bit of skill and a bit of time and patience, and you'll get a flat knife. Now, that's the foolproof method, number 1. The number 2 one that I didn't touch on is just hand sanding it on a surface plate. That's really foolproof, but it's a lot of time that you'll have to put into that, and I just recommend using your grinder. It's faster, and once you get good at it, it'll be really beneficial. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys want to see more knife making tutorials, leave a comment in what you want to see, what you need help in, and if I think it's worthy to be made a video of, I'll make a video of it. And I say that because sometimes people ask stuff like, how do I remove a scratch from, you know, this, or how do I, you know, and it's, you know, those could be answered with simple statements. So yeah, if you guys are wondering what my knives look like, what my knives, you know, what's my skill level in this knife making industry, this is what they look like. And they're pretty decent, I'd say. They're not like the best knives in the world. They're not gonna break your neck in a knife expo, but I think they're pretty decent for my age. I'm pretty proud of myself, and you should too. Whatever you make, be proud of it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.